Well, hello again, and welcome back to the Wives Club. My name is Margaret Brown, and I am just like you. I am a patron of Mr. Kevin Samuels. I'm a proud member of the family, and I'm just an average woman who booked a session with Mr. Samuels to ask permission to stand up a community of like-minded women within the privacy of the Patreon group. And I am thrilled that Kevin has given us permission, and he actually came up with the name The Wives Club. So we are open to former wives and current wives and future wives. I am a former wife, so I'm a divorcee. I was married at age 25 for 10 years. And then since the divorce, I've been in another 10-year relationship with a high value man. I have two boys from the marriage. I have a high schooler and a middle schooler. And I just want to do my part as a proud Gen Xer, but also someone who wants to improve our outcomes and increase the pool of marriage-minded women. So what we do here is we use Kevin's shows as a lesson plan to talk about our lessons learned, share mistakes that we've made, and just help and grow together, because I don't have all the answers, but I would love to have a conversation in real time. So if you're interested in joining us, please do. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So Kevin's show last night was entitled This Isn't Modern Women's Fault. It was a show on YouTube, and it kind of took me around the mountain with some of the Star Wars references. Honestly, I'm not into sci-fi, so I got a little lost there, but it was a fantastic show, and he, as he always does, he closed it out and connected all the dots. So I've got 10 things here that were items that, were of interest to me. We'll go ahead and get started. All right. So number one, Kevin brought up an article, I think it was from the Wall Street Journal, about the strategy used to keep women of color in debt by signing up for these online degrees. It was a fascinating article. And it was actually quite heartbreaking to hear about how, for-profit firms are working every day to make sure that we stay, indebted to them. My experience with this, I do have a master's degree, but I do not have any college debt. For undergrad, I had some scholarship and I worked. I had a small loan that I paid off within the first 5 years. It was under $9,000. And I went to, private school. I went to Spelman. So I lived at home and I worked and I saved money. When I was interested in getting my master's, I actually worked for a company, Philip Morris, who at the time had 100% tuition reimbursement. So that would be my advice. If you're interested in going back to school, it was hard. For 2 years, I worked during the day and I went to school at night, but I was able to get a $30,000+ graduate degree in MBA without having to go into debt. If there's any way that you can get a company to pay for your higher education, I've heard even Walmart offers, tuition assistance. I would definitely recommend that, because I've got friends who, took out loans to go to school. And one in particular, she owes more for college than she owes for her house. And that's definitely not a great way to start out. All right, number two, Kevin talked about the average man not being in that amount of debt. And ladies, it's actually true. I was talking to my man about this earlier, why men can mess up and get back on their feet later in life, honestly faster and sometimes better than we as women can. And there's so many reasons why that is. One of the reasons is men are more likely to be willing to live below their means, right? How many times have you heard a man talk about, eating peanut butter sandwiches or driving a raggedy car? This goes back to what Kevin said, I think in a previous show, about how we as women want to impress each other. How many times have, I'm guilty of this too. A new restaurant opens up. We want to be there. We want to take that picture so we can post it. We want to take those girls trips, even though, we're struggling to pay our bills. We want to have the latest, designer outfit. Men don't necessarily have those impulses like we do. So again, we love all men here, high value, men of value, men of means, and average men. So, just a reminder that a lot of average men that are working hard every day, they don't come with the burden of a lot of debt. Keep that in mind. Number three, Kevin talked about the personas, and this is fascinating to me. I work in tech, and so when you're in product development, this is something that we do often, right? You want to think about the end user or the customer experience. So you want to know who your customer is. If you're in any kind of business, you need to know who your target audience is. But I thought for higher education, which when you come from academia and you think that, educational institutions are there for the greater good, y'all, they are not. They are there to keep their legacy and their endowment and their funding alive. I am definitely a believer in education. Both of my parents have PhDs, but use it as a tool. And like Kevin has said, get the best degree for what you're going to do later in life. But when we saw those personas, especially for, the woman that shared our reflection, who is, what did he say, like $100,000 loan for a $40,000 job? No, let's not fall into the trap of these big marketing engines and be smart. There's nothing wrong with, there's a community college in your area that feeds into a larger school. What I tell my kids is work backwards. Let's look at the type of life that you want to live. Let's look at the type of career that can fund that life. Let's look at the type of education and experience that you need to have that job. And then let's look at the schools that will give you the best bang for your buck so that you can get there at the end. So just a tip from me. All right, number four, another one that was kind of heartbreaking. Kevin was talking about the kinless elder orphans. And ladies, if anything, puts a fire under our backside, it's that dying alone. None of us want to be alone. We don't want to be alone now, let alone in later life. So, when you think about, Kevin said a lot of his clients or people that he talks to, they can't imagine that this would ever be them. But you know what? When you think about your circle of friends right now, it's great when we're all young and healthy, but that golden girl lifestyle, if you think about it, when I'm 80, all of my girlfriends are going to be 80. God willing, they're still with us. They can't help me. They're going to be trying to take care of themselves. So, let's do better about planning for the future. I know it's not fun. I don't like having those conversations either, but that's why relationships are so important. Number five, Kevin was talking to, I think, one of the young sisters who called, again, about college debt. But one of the things that he said is that if there was a father in the house, he would not allow his daughter to go into so much debt for, what is often a useless degree, right? And so I had an experience, and I'll share with you all. I had a scholarship going into college, and I actually lost that scholarship. Why? I was a naturally smart student in high school, and I got straight A's without really trying that hard. And I was one of the ones that when I got into college, it just knocked me on my butt because I had not learned how to study. And so I lost my scholarship. And my dad said, that's it, you're going to come home. Because growing up in Athens, Georgia, everybody in my family went to UGA. And I was planning on going to UGA, but when I visited Spelman, I fell in love. So after the first semester, my dad was like, that's it, you're going to Georgia. And I didn't want to. So what did I do? I ended up moving out of the dorms and moving back home. Thank God my family's here in Atlanta. And it was hard. I was a commuter student and I had to work every summer break, every spring break. I didn't get to do those trips. But what the point is that, when you do have a father in your life, he forces you to make those practical choices. Sometimes moms will tell us, go on out there and live your dream. But my dad said, you're not going to private school. We don't have money for you to go to private school. You're going to go to Georgia like everybody else. So I made it work, and I ended up on the dean's list because I got my acting gear and I figured out how to study, and, the rest is history. But again, men are very practical and we need their direction and guidance in our lives. Number six, Kevin's talked a lot about this Order 66, and one of the quotes that I had here, I'm just looking at my notes: girls destroy boys and boys destroy themselves. And that's heartbreaking to me. In this community, we want to increase the pool of marriage minded women so that there are options, for our young men, for our boys. I'm a boy mom, and I think often about what's going to be out there waiting for them. So let's move away from the programming that keeps us single. I told my man today, I am so grateful to have you, not just you, but to be in a relationship where I don't have to worry about dying alone. It'll come sooner than we think, especially on the other side of 30. So number 7, Kevin talked about Order 66, which is again a Star Wars reference, is a death sentence. And, I don't want to get into any of the reasons why or the conspiracy theory, but it is something that we need to be aware of, and we need to definitely buck that system. I think we've been working really hard to buck at each other, and that is not the energy that we want to have, especially as ladies. But let's know that, we're all that we've got, and let's do our part to stay together. Number 8, another poignant question that Kevin asked is, what is your mother leaving you? Wow. In our community, it frustrates me and it breaks my heart every time I see another GoFundMe when someone unfortunately passes. That's not the way to plan. We can do better if we have that information now. I know when I got divorced, I met with a financial planner to go over everything, including the will, and make sure the house was in my name and have everything left 50-50 to my boys. And I tell my boys, I tell them now, mom is going to be okay. I don't want you to have that burden of having to worry about me. I want you to be able to move away, travel, live your life, and go out there. I will be okay. So every year I meet with my financial planner to make sure I will have, money to take care, of myself. And should I be so fortunate to marry again, it will only be, so that I can make sure that I have that family unit. And of course, submit to my man and support him. But none of us wants to get old and die alone. So if you are in a situation where you have to take care of your parents, and you have children, let's try to do our part to break that cycle, because that's how the other communities get ahead and they stay ahead. They leave a legacy for their children. Okay, number 9. Again, Kevin talked about, and I've seen this in friends, you are their retirement plan. When women don't marry or don't have anyone, they put an unnecessary pressure, on their children. And ladies, that's really unfair. We know that we want to, fly and go see the world and make a name for ourselves. Our children want to do that as well. So my only tip on this one would be, even if you're in your 30s or your 40s, at least make sure that you have the basic life insurance, a policy that you own in addition to whatever you may get at work, so that you have your affairs in order. And even if you can't leave, an estate to your children, make sure you don't leave them with a burden of a bill. Make sure that they can bury you with dignity, and know that you had your affairs in order. Man, this is kind of heavy. Okay, so the last one, number 10, Kevin said, no woman thinks that this is going to happen to them. And this is why not only do we need men, but we do need professionals in our lives. Kevin talks about therapy. And I had a Black male therapist, or I have one, when I was going through, all of my growth. And he asked me some really tough questions and kept my feet on the fire. The truth is, we all get older. Father time is undefeated. And let's use the knowledge that we have and the resources that we have, not only to look cute and to stay abreast of pop culture, but let's use that information to do better for ourselves and for our children. So, okay, this one was a little heavy, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. Kevin will be on tonight, I guess, on Instagram, and hopefully he comes on live on Patreon. But we will be here within the Wives Club. Again, we are open to former wives and current wives and future wives. So I'd love to know what your thoughts were, what you took from the show. And until the next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Bye.